And, of course, the Ravens open up this season Sunday night in Buffalo on NBC. Our next guest, a part of Football Night in America. He's a three-time Super Bowl champion and three-time All-Pro. The great Devin McCourty is back with us now here on GCR. Devin, it's Glenn in Baltimore. It's great to chat with you, man. Thank you for taking the time for us this morning.
No problem, man. Good to know football's back. All these
Man.
conversations I get to have with people means we're that close to opening night and being back out there.
It's funny because football's back, and on paper, there's not a lot better than Ravens Bills, right? Like this is definitely the game of the weekend, and yet I feel like for both markets, there's this sort of weird. Yes, this is a really important game. It's a playoff rematch. It's the guy that was MVP versus the guy that maybe should have been MVP. And yet at the same time, it's two cities where it feels like the conversation is, right, but wake us up when we get to the playoffs because nothing that matters in the regular season.
No, I mean, it is. Being at NBC, our opening weekend is you're going to watch the defending Super Bowl champs. You're going to watch Philadelphia.
Yep.
When the schedule first came out, that's what we were talking about, man. Like, man, Philly, Dallas, this is incredible. Oh my! And then you're like, oh, Sunday night, then we get Baltimore, Buffalo. It's ridiculous, a crazy weekend. And I think it's funny because you have on one hand, you have this team that's all about defending the Super Bowl and blah, blah, blah. And you have these other two teams that, arguably you can say this might be the game of the year, week one, between Buffalo and Baltimore. And no matter the outcome, how great of a game it is, no matter if Josh shines or Lamar shines, the whole conversation at the end is going to be like, oh, yeah, that was great. No one cares unless they get to the Super Bowl. And it just is what it is. These guys are so great that, it's a credit to them that there's nothing they can do that we won't say, yeah, I kind of figured they could do that.
Yep.
The only thing they could do is get a Super Bowl ring.
That's it. That's it for both guys. Devin, on paper, do the Ravens have the best roster in the NFL?
I think they have the best roster in the AFC. I would still pick Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I think part of that is because they reached the mountaintop and they've lost guys, but they've also lost guys that if we were like not even the beginning of last season, midway, if we said Milton Williams was going to sign a huge contract in New England, I think a lot of people would have been like, who's that?
Right.
Like Milton Williams, you know what I mean? Like Philly has done a good job of always having these guys. And I think there's an argument still that there's some guys over there that we're going to, by the end of the season, say, oh, man, a Jomo, like we didn't know who he was. And I think Baltimore is the same way. I think Travis Jones is that type of player of no one really talks about him, but like I talked to Kyle Van Noy and he's like, man, this dude is an animal in the middle. So there's still some players like that. But in an ideal world by talent, we'd be watching Baltimore, Philadelphia in February playing in the Super Bowl.
So, Devin, what is the difference, right? Like, and again, we're not going to learn it on Sunday night. I recognize that. But what is the difference right now for you in terms of the Ravens being this team that has consistently been good and obviously got better last year as the season went on defensively? How do they close that gap and get over the hump in the playoffs?
We had a saying in New England, your best players played their best in the biggest games of the year, and your role players played great in their roles in the biggest games of the year. I think for Baltimore right now, I don't think we've walked away from the biggest games of the year for them. Call it last year against Buffalo, the year before against Kansas City. I don't think we've walked away saying their best players played their best ball. And until they get to that level, and it doesn't mean they play, like I think we have this notion that like they have to play a perfect game. No, they just have to play one of their best games of the year in that game. And you think back, Zay Flowers, you would argue, is one of their best players.
Yep.
Even though he was a rookie, that fumble was critical.
Mm-hmm.
I would say Travis Kelce got a little bit the better of Kyle Hamilton in that game. Again, another younger player, 2 years ago. Last year, Mark Andrews, the fumble, the drop, like it's just those little things that to me, the games I've played in, whether it was Tom Brady, whether it was Julian Edelman, Rob Gronkowski, Dante Hightower, like these guys made these incredible plays in moments, and they played just solid football. Our best players, when we turned on the film, played really good ball. Remember Joe Tooney and Shaq Mason. We played against Aaron Donald. Like, we needed them to block Aaron Donald maybe 4 or 5 times one-on-one. They did that. That is championship football. I think Baltimore needs that from their guys. Not every game. I mean, not to say they don't need it for the 17 games in the regular season. They need it in the AFC Championship. They need it in division. Like, they need those moments in those games.
Devin McCourty is with us. Football Night in America will take you up to Ravens-Bills Sunday night on NBC. Devin, you bring up Kyle Hamilton. He just became the highest-paid safety in the NFL by a good bit. And I know that maybe safety, just describing him as a safety, doesn't do full justice to what it is that he does. I feel like there might be people around the league who are like, yeah, he's a good football player, but like that much more than any safety has ever gotten in the history of the NFL, really? Can you describe why it is that you think the Ravens were willing to pay Kyle Hamilton the way that they did? And I guess the dumb way of saying it, is he worth the amount of money they just paid him?
Yeah, I mean, because in what we're going to say, in 2 years he won't be by a wide margin that much more paid than the next guy, even though he's still going to be that much better than that next guy. I mean, again, a guy having played the position. I said it last year. When we watched the Kansas City-Baltimore game, I go up to him and I'm like, man, like, it's crazy to think me and you played the same position. The guy's an absolute freak. What he can do, I think, on your defense, he's a versatile piece that makes your secondary right. Last year, they kind of lost, with Marcus Williams when they took him out of the lineup. They kind of didn't have the sure end of the back end that they wanted, like playing guys deep and how they wanted to work out playing that straight safety position wasn't ideal. So they say, you know what, Kyle, we know what you did last year when you were at the nickel position and you were blitzing, you were covering guys like Jamar Chase in the slot. This year, you're not gonna be able to do that. Okay, great. He still goes and has an unbelievable year. And I was a little sad when Darius Washington got hurt this year because I thought he played at such a high level last year when they gave him an extended role. I was excited to see Kyle Hamilton, him with Malachi Starks. I was like, all right, we're going to get to see Kyle Hamilton back in that kind of nickel. And I know they got a lot of corners too, but I just was like, man, we're going to get a little bit more of those 3 safety sets. But, I think it's going to be a little harder. But I think the guy's unbelievable. I don't think it's like, man, maybe he'll have a good year this year. And we don't know. He's a guy I think that's going to have a standard that's like a first-team All-Pro standard. It's just going to be, is that year a Defensive Player of the Year type of year or just a first-team All-Pro type of year? I think he's that good.
Devin, is your expectation that what we saw early on last year in the Ravens' defensive struggles that got cleaned up as the year went on, that was just maybe the learning curve for a new defensive coordinator and a first-time defensive coordinator? Is your expectation that what we saw in the second half of the season, the defense the Ravens ultimately became, is what we should expect from this unit to start this season?
Yeah, I definitely think, Zach, it's not all going to go perfect. I think he figured some things out, but, I mean, I think it had a lot to do with personnel. I think the more that they had Darius Washington. I remember texting Kyle Van Noy during the year and was like, hey, man, I'm not that familiar with Darius Washington's game. I said, but the few games I've watched you guys, when he's out there, he brings a different energy. He's a spark plug. He's running around full speed. I was like, I don't know why they don't play him more. And I thought he started playing more, which I thought led to, okay, now we know in our back end, we like Darius Washington, we like Kyle Hamilton. Okay, that's now set. Then when Stevens and different things, and they start playing Nate Wiggins a little bit more, I thought that had a lot to do with Orr figuring out exactly where he wanted his personnel to be, and then how to call it with that personnel on the field. I think that's the hardest thing as a coordinator of once we get into regular season and now we're game planning, what do my guys do well that I can put them in the best positions to be successful? Like everyone kind of sees the X's and O's part of it, but if you have guys in positions where that's not what they do best, the X's and O's are going to look bad, and it might not be a bad call, but with that personnel, it might not be the right call. And I thought he better matched up his plays and his play calling with the personnel that they had. That was highly productive once they went out there.
You brought up Malachi Starks. I feel like another rookie, Mike Green, to me is maybe almost even more of an X factor for this team. And I think everybody knows the story of why it is that he fell in the draft, but from a sheer talent perspective, he appears to check the box. And you reference your former teammate Kyle Van Noy, who's been a miracle, right? Like since he arrived in Baltimore, a guy that was unemployed to start a season and has been incredible. But it still feels like the Ravens have just post Terrell Suggs been missing that like one overwhelming ass kicker matchup winner. When everything the chips are on the line. And I don't want to put everything on Mike Green because that's way too much to ask of a rookie in a second-round pick. But, boy, it feels to me, Devin, like he really becomes a major X factor. Like if he is as good as the talent suggests he can be, that to me comes off like a true game changer for this defense.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I think the why this is special is because all the conversation with Micah Parsons, and now that he's gone, it's like, well, he doesn't defend the run. He doesn't defend the run. Okay, like we know that. And I look at a guy like Mike Green, they're not going to ask Mike Green to go out there and play 85% of the snaps and be out there holding the edge on first and second down and tell him, like, if you want a pass rush, you better hold the edge and stop the run. No, he's going to get to do what he does best early in his career. And having the guys like Oweh and having Van Noy, you have these guys that are going to be able to be out there a majority of the snaps and do different things. And then he's going to come in and he's going to go out there and he's going to rush his butt off. He's going to be a player that's going to get out there. Maybe they move somebody else inside. He comes outside. Maybe he moves inside. I think he's going to be this piece that they can keep putting out there. And they're going to say, hey, you're a rookie. Every time you get out there, we're going to put you in a position to do what you do best.
Yeah.
And I've always thought, that's what you got to ask guys to do. And it's going to be the same thing with Malachi Starks. Like, hey, you're going to go out there and you're going to be out there with Marlon Humphrey and Jaire Alexander and Kyle Hamilton. They're going to make sure you end up in positions to do the things you do best. And you're going to keep learning all the other things that, by the end of the year, these two guys might be out there more and more doing more things compared to what we saw in, weeks 1 to 4.
Yeah.
And that, to me, that's how you have a good defense. That's how you create what Baltimore has been known for, these legacy defenses that every year it seems like role players stepped up, but then you just had these core guys who were unbelievable. It seems like that's what they're building now.
Devin, I need to know, what is it like to attempt to tackle Derrick Henry?
Well, for one, I got to love that this whole conversation, we've been on the phone for how long, and this is the first time we're about to dig in to the offense. So
I know, right?
I love the defensive talk, right? No, Derrick Henry, I mean, everyone keeps – I was in a conversation with some friends, and we're talking about can Travis Hunter go both ways, and they're like, but is Travis Hunter going to tackle Derrick Henry when he turns the corner? I was like, is any corner going to tackle Derrick Henry? Like, no one is signing up to tackle Derrick Henry. Take the biggest corners in the game right now. Like, they don't want to tackle this guy. And what I love about Derrick Henry is, the talk and knock on running back is that as they get closer to 30, it's time to move on. Derrick Henry's age is getting thrown out of the window because, no one really cares to check to see how old he is and what year this is. He just continues to dominate and play at the same kind of level he's played at. Man, it's unbelievable to watch. But anybody that follows him on Instagram, I follow him. I know him from his time in Tennessee with my brother.
Yep.
He puts his body through hell. He works his butt off.
It's insane.
To be ready for these moments. So it's really cool to see as a former player a guy still playing at such a high level.
And the guy just walks around eating plain bowls of kale, like no dressing, no hot sauce.
With no body fat.
Right. It's nuts, man. It's funny because we probably didn't bring up the offense because we just have no real questions about that side of the ball in Baltimore.
That's
but
very true.
I will give you what do you think DeAndre Hopkins can still bring to the table? As a guy that you've gone up against, obviously, in your career, at this point, what do you believe he could still – I know that in Kansas City they said he wasn't a fit, but I don't know, in Baltimore, it doesn't feel like his role – they're asking all that much from him. Be a red zone target, be a guy that makes 3 to 4 big catches a game. I would think he probably still has that in him at this point in his career, right?
Yeah, I mean, what DeAndre Hopkins was great at, you don't lose in age. He was never a burner. He was never a guy that just going to flat out run by you. He was a contested catch guy. You throw it up, he's going to out-physical the corner. He's going to go, he has some of the best hands in the league. He's going to go snatch the ball out of the air. And like you just said, where do you see that happen the most? In the red zone. And I think when this team's at fully healthy, I look and I go, hey, when we get in the red zone, now instead of trying to throw to Zay Flowers, who's a smaller guy, not to say that you can't, he still could bring some different things in the red zone. Now all of a sudden you're going to have Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, and DeAndre Hopkins, three big guys that if you can have packages with all three guys out there, you're going to have one-on-ones and different things that you can go to. And I compare it to a little bit. I know he didn't get used a lot, but when you think back to just, Julio Jones when he got to Philadelphia, he was a lot of times in kind of the inside part of the field, running down the middle in the high red area because you could throw the ball up high. He could go get it. And I think I think he'll have that kind of role. I think Baltimore's still going to need Rashad Bateman and Zay Flowers. They're going to need those guys to be the guys in the field. Likely, I think for them it would be great to see one of these young guys step up, whether it's Wallace or Walker or Webster. Like, I don't know who. I'm sure they would love to see somebody really develop into that third wide receiver. But again, they have a lot of talent. They have weapons. When you think about Keaton Mitchell and Justice Hill, like they have other guys they can use to kind of make up if they don't have like a true like great third option at receiver.
All right, I have to ask: is what we saw on Monday night, is that one game settle down? Like, my God, it's going to take some time, or does everybody think that maybe Bill's just not a college coach? What do you make of what you saw?
I don't think it's set in stone yet. I think it's the first game of the year. You have no idea what you have because you're not playing against anybody. There's no preseason. There's no joint practices. Yeah. So I think it'll get better. But I think, like, when you talk to a lot of college football people, they're like, yeah, TCU won. Did TCU win in a way that we didn't think would happen, like a team not complete a pass for 2 hours? Yeah, like we didn't think it would be that bad. But a lot of people are like, TCU is a better football team.
Right.
Now, we thought it'd be more competitive and things like that. And I was telling somebody, I think the thing people have to remember is when you're a coach in the NFL and you switch and you go somewhere else, you do a good job of drafting the right guys that you think, but you also go and get some guys that you've coached that have been in your system, because if you get in a game like Monday night and you need to make adjustments, you at least have some players that can adjust with you. For North Carolina, you can't just go in at halftime and make all of these adjustments. These schemes and these different things you're doing, they're still new to these kids. They're still trying to figure out. So I do think they'll get better. How good will they be? I don't know. Like, I was talking about that yesterday. People are like, they have a lot of easy wins. And it's just like, why is it an easy win? So far, what we've seen from them wasn't good. So what makes some other team an easy win? So they have to figure some things out. But as a staff, I would believe in a Bill Belichick staff to figure some things out before I would believe in a lot of other staffs.
All right, Sunday night, football night in America. We'll take you into Ravens, Bills. Devin McCourty, is there anything else that we can plug for you, my friend?
No, man, I'm just excited for the season to get started. Football night in America has been awesome. We'll get to wrap up and be at the Super Bowl this year, so I'm excited about that. And then love still calling games on Westwood One.
Yeah.
So people will hear me over there from time to time. We'll get to be in Green Bay for Green Bay, Washington early in the season, which will be a lot of fun as well.
That is a really good one. Hopefully we'll look forward to seeing you at the Super Bowl. I stopped going unless the Ravens are there. So hopefully I'll be seeing you there. Devin, you're really good at this, man. We always appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time for us.
No problem, man. You guys have a good one.